Book review of The Locked Door by Freida McFadden. Freida McFadden's The Locked Door is a psychological thriller that captivates its readers with dark, twisted narrative that explores themes of guilt, trauma, and identity. Known for her intense writing and character-driven plots, McFadden crafts story that not only keeps readers on the edge of their seats, but also challenges them to grapple with the complexity of human behavior in the aftermath of horrific crimes. At its core, The Locked Door is a novel about Nora Davis, a highly successful surgeon whose father, Aaron Niederman, was a notorious serial killer known as the Handcuff Killer. After her father's arrest and conviction, Nora changes her identity and seeks to build life far away from the horrific legacy left by her father's crimes. However, when a new string of murders emerges with shocking resemblance to the crimes her father committed, Nora's past resurfaces, and she is forced to confront the possibility that someone might be framing her, or worse, that she might be capable of committing these crimes herself. In this review, we will dive into several key aspects of The Locked Door, including its plot, character development, themes, pacing, writing style, and how effectively McFadden executes her psychological suspense narrative. Plot summary. Actor Nora Davis seems to have it all together. She's a successful surgeon, living quiet life with spotless record. But behind her composed exterior lies deeply buried past, one she's worked hard to forget. When she was just 11 years old, Nora's father, Aaron Niederman, was arrested for being notorious serial killer. Known as the Handcuff Killer, he lured young women into his basement, never to be seen alive again. Nora, having discovered one of his victims and alerted the police, was the unwitting catalyst for his capture. Since then, she's changed her name, built new identity, and put as much distance as possible between herself and the horrific legacy left behind. For more than 2 decades, Nora has managed to keep her past secret. She's become a skilled surgeon known for her precision and professionalism. But the tranquility she's built begins to crumble when woman is found murdered, strangled and handcuffed in chillingly familiar way. The method mirrors her father's MO so closely that Nora begins to question everything. Is it copycat killer, someone trying to frame her, or something even more sinister? As the body count rises, suspicion starts to creep in. Someone is sending Nora cryptic messages and leaving subtle clues that linger to the crimes. The police are investigating her. Even some of her colleagues and friends begin to look at her differently. Nora is forced to confront a horrifying possibility that someone knows who she really is, and is using that knowledge to dismantle her carefully constructed life. What's worse, Nora begins to doubt herself. Could her father's darkness somehow have seeped into her? Could she be capable of committing these crimes without even remembering them? As she spirals into paranoia and fear, she starts digging into the details of the murders, looking for patterns, connections, anything that might prove her innocence. Nora's investigation leads her back to her childhood home, the very place where her father committed his crimes. The locked basement door, once the site of unspeakable horror, becomes symbolic of the secrets she has kept locked away inside herself. She is forced to confront her memories of that time, the strange things her father said, her own odd behavior, the subtle signs she may have missed. The tension intensifies when another woman is murdered, this time someone Nora knew personally. The evidence against her grows more damning. Her fingerprints, DNA, and even surveillance footage all seem to point in her direction. But Nora is certain she's being framed, and that whoever is behind this has an intimate knowledge of her life and history. As the net tightens, Nora discovers shocking truth. The person behind the new string of murders is someone from her past, someone who also survived the trauma of her father's crimes and has been nursing twisted obsession ever since. This person believes that Nora is just like her father, and the killings are a sick experiment to prove it. In a gripping climax, Nora is forced to face her tormentor and finally confront the legacy of violence that has haunted her for so long. Using both her medical knowledge and psychological insight, she manages to turn the tables and expose the killer. In doing so, she also reclaims control over her identity. Not as the daughter of serial killer, but a survivor who refuses to be defined by another person's evil. The Locked Door is psychological thriller that masterfully explores themes of inherited guilt, trauma, identity, and the terrifying question of whether we can ever truly escape the past. Freida McFadden keeps readers on edge with fast-paced twists, unreliable memories, and heroine who is both deeply flawed and deeply human. With its sharp writing and unsettling atmosphere, the novel offers chilling reminder. Some doors are locked for a reason, but once opened, the darkness inside can't always contain. Plot and structure. The plot of The Locked Door is gripping from the outset, with McFadden immediately immersing readers in Nora's complicated life. The opening chapters establish her as a successful, well-respected surgeon, someone who has seemingly overcome the darkness of her past. However, the juxtaposition of her professional success with the haunting memory of her father's crimes creates an undercurrent of unease throughout the novel. As the plot progresses, McFadden chilling twist. New killer has emerged using methods eerily similar to Nora's father, and the police begin investigating Nora herself. This plot development creates sense of dread as Nora is forced to revisit her traumatic childhood while trying to prove her innocence in the face of mounting suspicion. The structure of the novel alternates between the present and flashbacks to Nora's childhood, skillfully revealing the trauma that shaped her into the person she is today. McFadden uses this structure to provide crucial context and backstory, gradually peeling away layers of Nora's history while keeping readers in suspense about whether she could truly be guilty. This assures that readers are constantly questioning the reliability of both Nora's memory and the events unfolding around her. What makes the plot stand out is its unpredictability. McFadden masterfully injects numerous twists, making it difficult for readers to trust anyone. Least of all Nora herself. The twists are well paced, building upon one another and keeping the reader guessing right until the final pages. Character development is one of McFadden's strengths in The Locked Door. Nora Davis is a deeply complex protagonist whose inner turmoil is conveyed, both her thoughts and her actions. She is a woman trying to escape the sins of her father, but her past seems to have relentless grip on her, particularly as she faces accusations of murder. Nora is depicted as strong, intelligent, and capable, yet the weight of her inherited trauma creates moments of vulnerability that make her feel real and relatable. Nora's relationship with her father is central to her character arc, as the handcuffed killer Aaron Niederman's crimes are so horrific that Nora spends much of her life in a state of denial and fear. She never fully comes to terms with the fact that she is the daughter of a notorious murderer, and this internal conflict is a key driver of the novel's emotional tension. McFadden does an excellent job of exploring how Nora's understanding of herself is clouded by the state of her father's actions. Supporting characters like Sarah, Nora's best friend, and Detective Ethan, who becomes involved in the investigation, are more than mere plot devices. They offer additional layers to the narrative by presenting different perspectives on Nora's situation. Sarah, for example, is fiercely loyal to Nora, but her friendship is tested when she begins to suspect that Nora might be hiding something more sinister. Detective Ethan, on the other hand, represents the institutional side of the investigation, raising questions about trust, loyalty, and the fallibility of the criminal justice system. The psychological tension between Nora and the people closest to her is palpable. McFadden skillfully uses these relationships to highlight the psychological complexity of her protagonist, making her more than just a victim of circumstance, but a deeply conflicted woman trying to reconcile her past with her present. Themes and psychological depth. One of the most striking aspects of The Locked Door is its exploration of psychological themes. The novel delves into the human mind, particularly the effects of trauma and inherited guilt. Nora's sense of self-worth is constantly undermined by the fact that she is the daughter of a serial killer. The guilt she feels despite her lack of involvement in her father's crimes is a theme that resonates throughout the novel. McFadden also explores the idea of nature versus nurture. Is Nora destined to repeat her father's actions because of her genetic makeup, or is she product of her environment? The novel asks hard questions about whether a person can truly escape their past or whether their upbringing will forever shape their identity. This question is particularly poignant in Nora's case, as she faces both internal and external pressures that suggest she might be more like her father than she ever wanted to admit. The novel also touches on the theme of trust. As the murders continue, Nora becomes increasingly paranoid, unsure of who she can trust. Relationships become strained as she questions the motives of those around her. This theme of trust is explored in both personal relationships with Sarah and Ethan and in the broader context of the police investigation. McFadden excels at building a sense of isolation around Nora, making it feel as though she is entirely alone in her struggle to clear her name. Another powerful theme in the novel is the concept of identity. Nora has spent much of her life hiding from her true identity, even so far as to change her name. However, as the events of the novel unfold, she is forced to confront who she truly is, both in terms of her familial legacy and her personal character. This internal struggle adds a layer of depth to the narrative and makes Nora's journey of self-discovery one of the most compelling aspects of the book. Pacing and structure. The pacing of The Locked Door is one of its most effective features. The novel opens slowly, drawing readers into Nora's world and allowing them to become emotionally invested in her character. As the plot progresses, the tension steadily builds, with McFadden skillfully increasing the stakes and introducing new twists that heighten the sense of urgency. The alternating timelines between Nora's childhood and the present-day investigation provides flow of information, keeping the reader engaged without feeling overwhelmed. The flashbacks to Nora's childhood are especially well handled as they offer critical insight into her psychological state while simultaneously deepening the mystery surrounding her father's crimes. While some readers may find the pacing in the early chapters to be a bit slow, the deliberate buildup of tension is essential to the novel's success. McFadden takes her time to develop Nora's character and lay the groundwork for the plot twists that will eventually follow. By the time the story reaches its climax, the pacing has escalated to fever pitch, leaving readers on the edge of their seats. Writing style and atmosphere. McFadden's writing style in The Locked Door. Straightforward yet immersive. She doesn't rely on overly flowery language, but her descriptions are vivid enough to create tense, atmospheric setting. Whether describing the sterile, unsettling environment of the hospital where Nora works or the claustrophobic isolation of her childhood home, McFadden effectively builds a sense of unease that pervades the entire novel. The psychological tension in The Locked Door is enhanced by the writing, which draws readers into Nora's fractured mind. The pacing of the story allows McFadden to slowly unravel Nora's internal conflicts, and her ability to portray the protagonist's paranoia, fear, and self-doubt adds a layer of complexity to the narrative. The novel's atmosphere is dark and foreboding, with an undercurrent of danger that never quite dissipates. The sense of dread intensifies as murders pile up and the investigation closes in on Nora, making for a suspenseful reading experience. Conclusion and final thoughts. The Locked Door is a psychological thriller that expertly combines suspense, character development, and thought-provoking themes. Freida McFadden has crafted a gripping story that examines the effects of trauma, the complexities of identity, and the nature of guilt and trust. Through Nora Davis, McFadden gives readers a compelling and multifaceted protagonist who must confront both the darkness of her past and the terrifying possibility of her own involvement in a series of murders. The plot is full of twists and turns, keeping readers on their toes until the very end. McFadden's writing style is atmospheric. Pacing builds steadily to conclusion that is both shocking and satisfying. While some readers may find the beginning slow, the overall payoff is more than worth it. The novel's exploration of psychological depth and the theme of inherited guilt adds layers of complexity that elevate it beyond the standard thriller. In the end, The Locked Door is highly engaging and thought-provoking read that will leave readers contemplating its themes long after they've finished the book. McFadden has once again proven herself as master of psychological suspense, and The Locked Door is a must-read for fans of the genre.